behind me, but it was almost time to pack up anyway. I was looking forward to enjoying the festival's live folk music entertainment being provided by the carnival. I'd say the turnout had been quite a success, all told. A quick perusal of the gathering crowd showed that Liam wasn't anywhere in sight. I tried to bury my disappointment, especially since we hadn't been able to spend much time together this past week. Seeing as he was Paramour Bay's only police presence, aside from the small 3-man unarmed security detail the carnival operator provided, Liam would be working around the clock for the next couple of days to ensure that the residents and tourists had a safe weekend. One would think, with all the spells and enchantments in the family grimoire, that I could squeeze out a few moments of time. I wish those annoying squirrels would stand still. All their twitching is very annoying. They're giving me a headache with all their incessant chattering. Why does Leo look like he's ready to attack someone? Heidi Connolly suddenly claimed the second fold-out chair that had been designated for my table by the town's festival committee, her blonde curls bouncing with the abrupt downward motion. In her hand was a paper funnel full of warm candied almonds that she'd been talking about buying all day long. I leaned back in my seat and held out my hand, needing a sugar pick-me-up myself. He's upset that the squirrels are fidgeting in the trees behind us. I popped a candied almond that my best friend had somewhat reluctantly relinquished into my mouth, taking a moment to relish the delicious sweet snack that practically melted in my mouth. I instantly reached for another one before she could withdraw the treat and save them all for herself. We're both in bad moods, and that won't change unless we can unilaterally prove that Rye Dolgarum isn't a warlock. Did you find out anything while you were standing in line? I saw him talking to one of the carnival workers for a bit, but the man walked away afterward with a brochure in his hand. The reason I was able to ask such a question was that the food truck serving an assortment of candied nuts and fruits was parked directly behind Rye's table. He was known well enough around town that he didn't need to solicit customers for his handyman business, but he'd gone ahead and reserved one of the vendor tables anyway, as had nearly every other business in town. I guess the same could be said for me, but he technically didn't have a brick-and-mortar shop to advertise. He'd been passing out brochures to the local residents and even some to those in neighboring towns. I didn't find out anything, Heidi reluctantly admitted, tilting her head to the side while she studied the man in question. There was no denying the fact that he was tall, dark, and handsome. He was also the type that a woman inherently knew was harboring a deep, dark secret. With that said, he went out of his way to be kind and inordinately helpful to those residents around town. Raven, I'm thinking that what Leo saw the night Rye fixed your gate was nothing more than a trick of the light. I don't think he used magic, and I don't believe he's actually a warlock. Heidi could have a point. I did say that I might have hallucinated the entire thing given my level of catnip consumption that day. Hey, what do you think would happen to those squirrels if I stuffed catnip in their acorns? Leo, stop spying on the wildlife and focus on our target. Who says the squirrels aren't our targets? They might not be on your radar, but they're certainly on mine. Come to think of it, they might just be in league with Rye. To say that the last 8 weeks or so had been lived with a fair amount of stress would be an understatement. It had been that long since Leo thought he'd witnessed Rye use arcane magic outside my cottage to defeat one of Nan's minor protective wards. It was a wonder I hadn't developed an ulcer. The mere possibility that the man could be a warlock had me all worked up. Trust me when I say that there would be a fair ration of ramifications if that were the case. You see, I was a descendant from a long line of witches who had been expelled from our previous coven for conjugating with humans. My family had been excommunicated from a notorious coven located in Windsor, but word had it that the council was on the brink of war. I wanted no part of the coven, the council that governed it, or either faction that had the capacity to expose our kind to the world with their tomfoolery. My full name is Raven Marigold, and I'd become quite fond of this new way of life of being a witch. In fact, I'm growing rather fond of my gift, and I was getting better at casting spells by the day. Debatable, even by the loosest definition.